Our final speaker has faced myriad disaster challenges because he not only, and his state, not only faces flooding, but they face steep slopes, narrow canyons, wildfires, denuded mountains, and landslides. And it all sort of came together in 2012 and 2013. He was the superstar of our CFM brand new video that you saw as you filed in this morning. That's available at floods.org. It's my pleasure to introduce Brian Varrella.
I want to start this morning off a little differently. I want to do something that I have never done and will never admit to, and I'm glad they're getting this on film because I'll never do it again. I want to lead everyone in a cheer. So, everybody get your seats up out of your seats. Now, stand up. Everybody in the room, stand up. I'm coming to you. If you're not standing up, we're going to have words, okay? Fowler, you feeling good? Feeling good. Okay, good. All right, I want everyone to reach deep down inside and find that inner part of you that wants to come out that you won't let out in a public environment. I want you to work with me, and I'm going to put my superpower caps on here, so I got to draw from resources I don't have purely by adrenaline. Okay, that's better. That's better. We're getting this, right? It's all right. Bring it. It's okay. Ready? Everybody with me now? Good. All right, listen up. Ready? I say fire, you say flood. Fire. Fire. I say mitigate, you say now. Mitigate. Mitigate. I say go, you say Broncos. Go, Broncos, go, Broncos. Oh. You should have seen it coming. I tricked you. Yeah. I tricked you. You guys did a great job. Give yourselves a hand. That was fantastic. I like that. So this is me. This is also me. If you need to find me, that's me. The state organization, of course, the regional organization are on there as well. And I'm here to talk to you about mitigation. Now, mitigation is problematic in Colorado because we're the headwaters of 5 major rivers. We are a headwaters state, as we like to say. There's your state, there's your watersheds, there's your rivers. These drain into a myriad of states and 2 countries, both into Mexico and Texas. And mitigation is problematic not only because we have a lot of downstream water users who need our resource to be available to them, but also because the customers, the clients, the stakeholders, the people that live in these states need this water for their daily survival, and they are heavily invested in the future of their own water. The other problem we have in Colorado is we have, as Deb said, steep watersheds and human encroachment. The bottom line is the same as in your states, we just can't leave our watersheds alone. Why is that? Because they're pretty, right? They're beautiful. That's why we like to hang out in our watersheds, especially at the low part where all the damage happens. And by the way, all of these photos we did take, these are real photographs of disasters that have happened in the last year and a half in Colorado. We have many, many, many hazards to mitigate. It's not just about flooding. It's also about worst possible scenarios. Wildfires burning through subdivisions. And these are subdivisions in urban and suburban areas. I'm not talking about back in the boonies, in the backwoods. This is happening right in our own cities and towns in Colorado. And as you said already, fire, flood. There's a connection between the two. And the problem with mitigation is an ounce of prevention is not sexy when it comes to mitigation. It doesn't sell. It doesn't win votes, generally, in the state of Colorado. And I really like to talk about wildfire because this is the one ring that rules them all. From wildfire, we get a lot of other disasters. And here's how it looks. Fire starts, goes into our natural resource areas, our natural assets, and it burns them so they look like this. Right? Now, let's add a little water to that mix. What comes out of this? Flash floods, erosion, lots of that. Debris, and it affects the drinking water quality of the water that I drink. Our beer is better than Seattle's. It's true. I'm not making this up. And if your water supply smells like campfire, imagine what your breweries are thinking. Not acceptable. So here's what a flash flood looks like. I want to show you in 48 seconds what a flash flood in a wildfire burn area looks like with a half inch of rain. There it's starting. By the way, water isn't usually that color in Colorado. As Lucas Moutet, one of my co-fire supervisors, took this video actually during the storm. Look at that water. It's got stuff in it, right? That is not healthy. That is not safe. It's moving fast through steep terrain that doesn't usually have water in it to this depth. That's why there's no defined channel. That's why there's green grass. We're getting to the end of the 48-second clip. Watch what happens when Lucas turns back to the source of this flooding. And I want you to think public safety hazard when you see it. Right there. 48 seconds. How much warning time do you have for floods in your community? I have less than a minute sometimes. That's problematic. And fires do weird things. Have you ever seen an erosion pattern that does this? I was so struck by this photograph, I didn't know what to think about it. And then I took that one. And then I took that one. Well, Lucas took that one. But you get the idea. It gets worse. These were all last summer, 1 year after the fire. My drinking water is pictured on the left. This is a video of what it looks like actually flowing when you have a post-wildfire flood. This is in the Cache La Puta River right outside of town. There are 2 drinking water sources for Fort Collins. This is one of them. The rest of it we take from Los Angeles, from Nevada, from our neighbors in Arizona and California, the Colorado River. We have no redundancy now when we're in this situation with our drinking water supply. And by the way, that's Jill Orapeza's arms. She got, I called her, I said, hey, there's a flood watch. You may want to be ready to go. She said, you tell me when and I'll get up there and take pictures and video. So she actually took this video in her office clothes. That's how dedicated she is to protecting our drinking water supply. And when I talk about debris, I'm not talking about a little debris. I'm talking about a lot of debris. How big is this debris? Well, there's me for scale. Those are the size of the rocks that are ready to fall on State Highway 14 at mile marker 114.5 over the Monroe Tunnel to close that highway down. Any one of those individual boulders can and will damage a vehicle and everybody in it when it comes down. How do you mitigate that? Here's how. I'm going to give you guys some tips, all right? I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to give you ideas, okay? I'm not just going to say, this is bad, see ya, I'm out, peace. No, I'm going to give you some ideas. I'm going to start by saying, get it out to the public. Let them know, hey, things are going to happen. Bad things will happen in a burn zone, in a flood zone, in a debris zone, in a landslide zone. Does anyone know when the last major landslide was in Colorado? Colorado, holler, yeah, last week. It was last week. It was 4 miles long, 2 miles wide, and 250 feet deep. And there's still more ready to come down. That's a problem. Here's another way we treat things. We mulch. Now, I love mulching. This is dropped by a helicopter right on my head. And when I saw that coming down, I went for cover. Not behind my iPad, but behind that big boulder right there. There's me crawling out, saying, holy cow, I'm not getting paid enough for this. We try to treat our watershed because our watershed treats us, right? It's not just about health, safety, and welfare. It's about being able to live day to day with the same water you have to drink. So we're trying to give you other ways of mitigating besides heavy equipment and heavy equipment and heavy equipment. Yes, we are doing this in Colorado. We don't have a choice. We don't have a green solution for everything yet, but we're getting better at it. Are we not? Don't shout me down. We're getting better at this, right? Yeah, okay, thank you. Good. I thought I'd lost you for a minute. That's good. I can't see any of you, by the way. All I can see are these big lights that they turn off, and when I come over here, they turn those off, and they turn these on. No, they didn't do it. All right. And I want to tell you something that doesn't work as well as I would like it to work. Elevating and freeboard do not always work. Why is that? Because sometimes the channel moves, right? A little bit of avulsion does a whole lot of damage. Jeff Brisline showed you that yesterday in his presentation from AMIC. Dave and Shay from Urban Drainage showed you that yesterday in their presentation from the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District. Troy Carmen from ICON showed you that the day before yesterday. What we're trying to show you is that a lot of times you can't get out of the way of the hazard comes to you. There were, here's your numbers. I know you guys like numbers, so I'm going to throw some numbers at you. In our 2013 September flood disaster, we had about 2,000 square miles of affected area. 2,000, that's a lot. Square miles. Some of your states are smaller than that. I love you guys. I'm just trying to give you an idea of perspective. Okay? There were 28,000 applications for individual insurance. There were about 19,000 homes damaged or destroyed in one event. 19,000. How many of those 19,000 were in a special flood hazard area? Less than half. So these hazards exist outside of our mapped floodplains. Our static boundaries on our flood maps do not always show the risk. I know that's a big thing to say. I'm here to say it. I feel bad. I'm sorry, man. I won't move near as much. I apologize. This guy's working too hard. Thank you. The static flood maps don't always give you the hazard when you're dealing with that. This house, this is in the Big Thompson Canyon on US 34. Will Birchfield, where are you? Are you in here? There he is. This is Will's backyard. Yeah, it's more like your front yard, isn't it? Yeah. This house that broke off of that bluff is 35 feet above the base flood elevation. It used to be a house about that big, and then now it's a house this big. Do you think elevation and freeboard would have helped them? Nope. Not when the channel moves over, takes out the toe of the slope, and the whole slope comes down underneath it. We saw a lot of that. There it is close up. That home is neither healthy, safe, or well. That is a health, safety, welfare problem. And that's why mitigation alternatives have got to start branching out into other things. If freeboard doesn't work, if elevating this home above that hazard doesn't work, then what do we do? If we can't leave our watershed alone, then what do? We have to learn from our mistakes. I like to say best practices are only good until history changes your practice, right? So history plus new information equals new best practices. That one's free. The next one, I'm going to send you an invoice. This is good advice, okay? Do not hold to the best practices of your past. And I love these two quotes from Chris Sturm, our stream team leader at the Colorado Water Conservation Board. He asked the question of the media, if you could rebuild it all over again, would you do it the same way? And Winston Churchill was not afraid to make mistakes. And he said that I should have made nothing if I had not made mistakes. All of these things are telling us something. They're telling us exactly what John said. If we don't learn from our own history, then we are doing our people a disservice. If we don't speak to our elected officials about their future 10, 50, 100 years down the road, then there won't be a future to govern, right? If we don't adopt practices that are outside the norms, like the one that Tim Troutman showed us earlier today, then we're going to end up with the same thing that we always have. And it's going to look a lot like that. So in Colorado, when we talk about fires, we're also talking about a prelude to a flood disaster. So my first recommendation is, number one, let's treat every wildfire, or my friends in Texas, Jessica Baker corrected me once, it's actually pronounced wildfire. It's pretty close. It's close. Thank you, Jessica. Treat it as a prelude to a flood. Just expect it. If fire, then flood. You guys got it this morning, right? Now go tell your friends. Here's a second recommendation. If wildfire is a watershed problem, then we have to fix the problem at the source. That's our entire watershed. Let's do what the states east of us do, like New York, and treat our watershed not as a natural resource, but as a natural asset, something worthy of protection. So future generations have water that they can drink, clean water that they can drink. And here's another recommendation for you guys. Communicate. How many of you are tweeting right now? Twits in the audience, put your hands up. Good, good. Okay, that's a good start. My public information officer from the September floods told me that social media was the number one way that people wanted to communicate with us during the event and after. I have a town of 150,000 people. There were 263,000 shared Facebook posts, 263,000 in 3 days. More than 250,000 discussions in 3 days from my community, and that's just one community. So if you haven't adopted these new methods of communication, if you have a cell phone in your pocket, you are without excuse. I'm telling you here, use it. Talk to the people, let them know you exist, and then let them know what they can do to lessen their disaster, like Tim shared recently. Here's another recommendation. Collaborate. Get people together in the same watershed to share resources. And I like that photo on the right. Our state flower is the columbine. And that actually grows at 7,000 feet by itself. It's highly unusual, but it actually physically grew up out of the ashes of a wildfire. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow up from the ashes from these disasters. And I want you to break the fire, flood, erosion, damage cycle because it's almost never ending. The last fire we had outside of Fort Collins was 136 square miles. Do you know how big the land area of Seattle is? 83 square miles. So take 1.5 Seattles. That's how much area burned. And that's how much watershed is so cooked now that the ground is like ceramic. And every drop of water that hits rolls right off, picks up some burned detritus, goes into the water, and makes nice campfire-smelling beer. We can't do that forever. We can't. So it's time to manage our resources as assets. A resource is something you plunder. An asset is something you protect. Make a distinction. And you've got to break this cycle right here. Right here. Break the cycle there. So you don't get that. You want to protect this so that when that happens, these are A-OK, right? Pretty simple. Adults are just like kids. We like candy, we like to chat, and we love cartoons. Use those to your advantage, okay? Sixth recommendation. Identify and regulate hazard buffers. Do you remember when I told you that static flood maps don't show all the risk? Do you remember the pictures I showed you of homes that had been damaged because the foundation was washed out underneath them when the channel moved, when the hazard relocated, or when new hazards came through? That's what I'm talking about. This is a picture in Will Birchfield's backyard on Fish Creek in Estes Park of a location where damage occurred outside the special flood hazard area. We have thousands of these pictures, thousands, not just from September. Erosion doesn't care what boundaries are on your map. It really doesn't. And setting things back saves lives. Ask Will if setbacks saved lives in his community. I won't give it away. Ask him. He's easy to talk to. Nice guy. Channel migration happens. And it takes apart the assets that you're protecting in your community, including health, safety, and welfare, economic vibrancy, environmental vibrancy. All of that has to show up somehow in our plan. And natural and beneficial functions are A-OK by me. Let's go ahead and treat them as what they are. They are truly an asset in communities in the western United States, and I believe the rest of it as well. And for crying out loud, we need more helicopters. Heli photos, heli tours, heli yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Right on time. If you're going to take caution steps, take the caution steps. Thank you, everybody.